Well, happy whatever day this is that you're joining us. This is Richard Rosen, Winnipeg's friendliest undertaker, and my recording engineer, George, who's joining us here today. And the purpose of all of our interviews has been to share knowledge on a wide variety of topics. So if you've been watching our interviews over the last number of years, you'll know that we've been covering a wide variety of various funeral topics, including green burials, the importance of managing and protecting your digital assets. And recently we've launched this new segment on successfully aging in place. Now that I'm into my 50s, later 50s, the topic of aging in place has really become a new part of my life. And I really need to be aware of and to learn how to successfully live and safely live so I can continue to enjoy the best quality of life that I possibly can. Helping with that success really became part of my journey. And what I did was became an early member of businesses and organizations supporting seniors, people working in the aging in place community, helping to create and maintain the best quality of life possible for older adults. So if you're looking for a good audiologist, a financial planner, additional home care, a pharmacist, or a lawyer, to name a few, you can go to my website where you'll find a page dedicated exclusively to BOSS, and it has a list of the members that are there and links to all of them. And you can also take a look at the BOSS Facebook page. Speaking of lawyers, we welcome today Andrew Torbiak with Tradition Law LLP Estates and Trusts here in Winnipeg. While his practice is estate law, he focuses on estate planning and provides consultation to clients related to committeeship and attorneyship issues, as well as estate beneficiaries. Andrew was called to the Manitoba Bar in 2016 and now gives back to law education as a sessional instructor, coaching third-year law students at the Canadian National Negotiation Competition. Andrew contributes to the Winnipeg community by sitting on the St. James Assiniboia 55 Plus Center Board. And he's volunteered since 2016 as a presenter through Senior Care Without Walls, a senior engagement resource offered by A&O Support Services for Older Adults. And additionally, and finally, Andrew, like us, are a proud member of businesses and organizations supporting seniors. Andrew, thank you for joining us today, and looking forward to a good conversation about things that we need to know about our estates and those plans.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Richard.
Part of my job is dealing with my role with folks to take care of their wishes is to actually lay that out. And I think most people kind of get that. But do you have any insights to anything specific that folks should consider when they are writing that into their will?
Absolutely. And good of you to bring it up. And absolutely, if I'm talking to the absolute perfect person to supplement what I have to say on this matter. So I mean, where we started was, okay, you've got executor and beneficiary. That is the bare bones minimum for what you would need to put into a will. And then we added the supplement of, well, why don't you specify about personal belongings as much as you want, but start easing the burden on your executor. And then we discussed, providing a roadmap for digital assets. How do I handle them? Where are they even? If I can't physically flip through your mail to find out what accounts you have, how am I supposed to narrow that down on the internet? And now, as you very appropriately raise the idea of specific wishes in terms of funeral, burial, services, memorials, cremation or not, goes on and on and on. You start to see the theme arise of simply making decisions and putting arrangements in place that make life easier for your executor, and by extension, the loved ones that you are hoping to benefit through your estate. it's hard enough to be an executor, just following the steps that are laid out, the traditional steps of paying debts, liquidating assets, finalizing taxes, and distributing. That's hard enough. Adding the burden of major and important and potentially sentimental decision-making to their job is almost insensitive, or almost asking a little bit too much. So a third thing that you can do to supplement your will, to sort of fill in that last quarter to 10% of your will decisions, is specifying what your wishes would be. So whether that is uncremated or cremated remains, to be buried or not to be buried, to be scattered or not to be scattered, to be held onto or shared, or whatever that may be. Did this person want a service? What kind of service? Non-denominational, in their church, mosque, synagogue, or place of worship, down to the hymns that you might want to be sung. If the point of those services, as in like funeral or handling of remains services, is truly a commemoration of you for the benefit of the people left behind, because depending on your beliefs anyway, the person who's passed away can't exactly enjoy their own funeral, then to know that they are making the arrangements that you absolutely wanted and put in writing in no uncertain terms will make it all the more meaningful. In my opinion, you can tell I'm a little passionate about this, but it will make it all the more meaningful for the people left behind, because there was no guesswork. They know absolutely this is what, say, mom or dad wanted. And it might be a little quirky, but frankly, that could add to it. I recently wrote into a will that somebody wanted a fireworks display. And they said, if I don't write this in, there's no way they'll spend the money. So I'm writing it in because I know that my grandkids would just, my young grandkids would love a fireworks display. And then they would think about me every Canada Day or you name it. So I'm putting it in and they can laugh if they want. Yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing. I think about, some of personally my most memorable times would have been around a loved one's passing. And when I think about that, I just think about the service essentially, and what songs were sung, and how many speeches were given, and all of those things. I'm sure you have some thoughts on the matter as well, Richard.
Yeah, it really comes down to the roadmap, because that, anything that can help guide and make clear wishes, that makes life a whole lot easier. And for all of us, as especially with us in the funeral industry, if there's nothing written down and someone comes to you and says, and you say to them, well, what are we supposed to do? And the conversation starts with, well, we really don't know, because our mother, father, whoever didn't want to talk about it, and there's nothing written down, and the will isn't updated. So, then you're flying blind, and that's just one thing. And I can appreciate, I'm only seeing one portion of an estate where is this the theme? Is this the common thread through everything that these folks are going to have to go through? Because things weren't settled out and organized in a good way for folks. So,
that's the importance of the will. I mean, it sounds like it goes without saying, or it seems obvious, but it's in writing. You can't argue with it in writing. And so oftentimes, and I'm sure you've dealt with this as well, somebody says, well, mom or dad said they wanted this or that. And then somebody else across the way, across from that person says, no, they told me something else. Or no, I don't believe you, or whatever it is. And so the trouble is, when you have two different accounts, or frankly, maybe it's just two different opinions. The law in Manitoba says a will speaks from death. And what that means is it doesn't matter if you wrote your will yesterday or 30 years ago. The will is going to be interpreted as if you signed off on it and then took your last breath. It speaks from the moment that immediately before you passed away. And so that might be what you're left with, or what your family is left with in terms of what to go on for your decisions, especially if there's a disagreement or a difference of opinions. Well, what does the will say? And the will says, I wish to be cremated, period. Not much to go on. And so, yeah, it's exactly right. It's the roadmap. It's taking decisions out of the hands and minds of your executors. And I know I'm supposed to be the interviewee, but I'd love to ask you this, Richard. I find that when people come to me, they say, well, I don't know what my kids would want in terms of personal belongings or funeral arrangements or whatever, you name it. And I say, well, what do you mean what they want? We're writing your will. What do you want? And I know we want to be accommodating of other people's wishes, but frankly, sometimes will makers lose sight of the fact that it's not what you decide, it's the fact that you decided. So don't worry so much about other folks. Just speak for yourself and keep in mind, you'll be dead, to be glib. You'll have passed on. There's no arguing with you come that time. Is that something you run into?
Yeah, to a point. And I think when I'm making pre-planned arrangements for the service, because that's that's where we tend to go, is what are those plans? And it's about the person's life. What is your life? What's it been? And that's a good foundational place for me to start, because then it sets some terms of if somebody was a long-standing member at a golf club, okay, well, that can take us into a certain direction to talk about why not hold a ceremony there at the golf course. You're familiar with it. The parking is good. The food is already there. There's all of these pieces that can fit. If they were a lecturer, a professor, hold it at the lecture hall at the educational place. So that's a place. It sets tone. Think about the kids then, of who can you think of that would want to say something, and what do they want to say, and how do they want to say it? So it's either the eulogy or maybe passages of scripture if there's a religious service, a musical piece. Include people in ways that you see fit, because what you're also doing is you're giving them the opportunity to grieve, and you're giving them the opportunity to understand it's okay. It's okay to let go. I'm not here. Express yourself in the ways that you feel is important. I'm giving you that. That's my final gift, is the roadmap of the will, having it laid out and thinking through. The emerald earrings, as you mentioned, how do you avoid that? Who would appreciate that more? The daughter over the son, or the daughter-in-law, or whatever that is. Mm-hmm. So, and that's what I find is to personalize it. It takes time, and not everybody in the funeral industry takes that extra time, because it's just writing contract, getting the check, and mm-hmm. But for me, I've understood after 40 years that I really need to make sure that people understand. Everyone has to feel good. The person writing the will and doing the prearrangement has to feel good when they walk out of our offices, that they've done the best that they can with the knowledge that they've been given by both of us in our industries and fields, and know that the beneficiaries mentioned in the will have a good roadmap to follow, and get on with the grieving piece and do those things. As you said, executorship is hard enough, and I've been executor for my mom, and it was a reasonably easy thing, because I am an only child. But I get it. Now there's administrative things, but I had a good roadmap, because when she did her will, it was very clear. Prearrangements are exactly the same thing. It's a very clear roadmap, a lot more detailed, as you mentioned, about scripture readings and all of these other pieces, and how the body is is taken care of. Anything that you can do to make things easier for others is what we all should try to do to the best of our ability.
And so when you were dealing with that, were you grateful for the roadmap that you had?
Oh, absolutely. You know, it was simple because I already knew. You know, and that's the other piece that family have is that, you know, even if it's not written in the will, you know, that mom wants to be, you know, buried or cremated, if dad was buried and there's a plot right next door for mom, you can safely assume that that's where she's first going to go. And then to determine, is she going to be buried there? Okay, well, she's going there. Is she going to be buried? Is there any sense of cremation? Because cremated remains can go on that plot. So you have a piece of a roadmap, or, you know, again, if there's been a funeral previously, okay, well, the service was held here. Okay, that's where they've gone to church forever and ever. Okay, that makes sense. So you have, you know, there's tradition as well of what family experiences are, that with a funeral you can rely upon. At least it's a place to start. Okay, this is what we did. Is this what we're going to do? And then you just adjust and adapt as you move it forward. So thank you, Andrew. We're really grateful for your insights and sharing all of your knowledge with us here today. And to our audience, we're grateful for the time that you've invested with us here, and hope that we've offered some new insights into the area of aging in place that might have been new to you. And if you like this interview, please hit the thumbs up button on the YouTube page, and also don't forget to subscribe. This is Richard Rosen, Winnipeg's friendliest undertaker, signing off. Keep safe and keep smiling.